Chicago. I haven't heard it.
Larry Elder, syndicated talk show host, best-selling author, is our guest. You know, you said you don't agree they're trying to start a race war. I don't mean a full-out, nationwide, white people kill black people kill white people. But already in Southern California, we've got the phenomenon of the Hispanic gangs targeting blacks that undoubtedly is going on, and vice versa, but mainly the Hispanic against the black. I know in East Austin, if you want to talk about real racial animus, I talked to the police. It's actually black against Hispanic. That's what I see actually flaring up. You're talking about real racial stuff. And so I want you to elaborate on that because I know you're an expert on it. But what are they trying to do? Because when they're up there hyping all this, it's starting to cause kind of a cold race war.
I think it is. And Alex, I agree with you that what they want to do, though, but I wouldn't call it a race war. What they want to do is make blacks perpetual victims. It doesn't matter how much money you make, you're still a victim. Doesn't matter how successful you are, you're still a victim. Doesn't matter if you have a PhD from Harvard, you're still a victim. When Obama first ran, I saw him for the first time with a lengthy interview on 60 Minutes with Steve Croft, 2008. He said, Senator Obama, at the time he wasn't the likely nominee, Senator Obama, if you don't win the nomination, will it be because of race? And Obama said, and I'll never forget this, Alex, he said, no, it will be because I've not articulated a vision that the American people can embrace. I'm at my house, and I said, you know what? I would never vote for a left-wing Democrat in a million years, but at least this SOB is refreshing. At least we can stop this nonsense. You're picking on me because I'm black. At least he'll have black people no longer saying that automatically. In fact, as soon as he got into trouble, he went that way. He said the Cambridge police acted stupidly. He injected himself in the Trayvon Martin case and said that if I had a son, he would look like Trayvon. He injected himself in the Ferguson case. In every single case, Obama had an opportunity to say something. He could have said to that Harvard professor, Professor Gates, here's the problem. In the inner city, we have a bunch of black guys with chips on their shoulder, just as you exhibited to this man who was just doing his job. You came to your house. You didn't get in because the door was wacky. One of your neighbors called because the neighbor, being a good neighbor, thought you were breaking into a neighbor's house. The cop showed up, did his job, saw you in the house, asked for ID. Instead of cooperating, you said, yo mama. This is exactly the problem. You have a lot of black guys saying, yo mama, to cops, when in fact the cops are just doing their job. Rough, tough, the situation they're in. They're in this high crime areas because that's where the crime is. The problem is we don't have fathers in the black community. You said, Mr. Obama, that a black kid growing up without a dad is 5 times more likely to be poor, 9 times more likely to drop out of school, 20 times more likely to go to prison. You said that 75% of the black kids in America are born without dads in the house. Do the math. That's the problem. And Obama had an opportunity to give the country a lecture on this, Alex Jones. Instead, what did he do? The Cambridge police acted stupidly. I was so disappointed in him, but I realized here's what he needs. When he's in trouble, he's got to have that 95% monolithic black vote. In 1956, 39% of blacks voted for the Republican Party. That's where I believe the sweet spot is. If the Republicans were smarter, Alex, they could get that 35, 39, or 40%. And Obama knows that. So he's got to keep these black people.
Well, sure, and they've not delivered.
You're a victim. You're a victim.
Exactly. They've not delivered on jobs. They've not delivered on anything. Things are getting worse.
The poverty rate is lower for black people than when Obama took over. The unemployment rate is twice what it is for whites, as it was when Obama took over. It hasn't changed any, except you have a whole bunch more black people on food stamps, and the labor force participation rate, the percentage of able-bodied black people in the market or looking for a job, is at a 30-year low. All of this is a result of policies, tax, spend, regulate, that chase people away, that destroy jobs, that don't create jobs, and those that get hurt the most are the most vulnerable. These are the ones with the lower income people. These are black and brown people, the very people that put Obama in office.
You know, that is a good story, because I'd forgotten about the different, because it was a bunch of people would get mad when they got home and had to break in their own house when the cops showed up, that would turn into a big national issue. I remember one time about 10 years ago, I couldn't find my keys, so I climbed up to the second floor, went in through an open window that I knew that I'd had open or cracked, and the cops showed up 10 minutes later. We're walking around the back of the house. I came and opened the door, and they said, hey, I need to see an ID. Your neighbor saw somebody break in. I go, oh, yeah, that's me. And I just showed him my ID. I never thought that, of course, it was a white cop, but I'd still, I mean, that just must be so ingrained that you break in your own house, which everybody's done at one time or another, and then the cops come, and then you think it's because of racism.
I think that cops deserve the benefit of the doubt. In every situation, I first give them the benefit of the doubt. They're in a situation where they're willing to take a bullet for somebody they don't even know. I think we ought to give them the benefit of the doubt. These are frequently the best trained. Many of them have undergone polygraphs, undergone character studies that most people have not had to undergo to get their jobs. I think they deserve the benefit of the doubt. And you pointed out this black cop in Utah. It was a black cop. He shot a guy at a convenience store, 20 years old, for some kind of encounter. And the family of the white guy has protested, but very quietly, and the media has shown indifference. But I believe that the proper response is what the Salt Lake police have done. That is, put the officer on administrative leave. They said we're conducting an investigation. In Salt Lake City, by the way, the cops do have camera lapels or dash cams or some sort of video, and so there is video about this, but it hasn't been released yet because they're pending the investigation. The family hasn't called Sharpton, to my knowledge. They protested. The media hasn't come in there because the cop is...
Sure. It's clear manipulation. I want to come back and get into ISIS and get your take on that with Larry Elder straight ahead. You can say what you want about the cops all day. It's about the federalization. That's the big issue.
This hour.
Open phones coming up in the next hour. I'm going to get into the geopolitical news that I've not covered yet, what's happening with the dollar. You'll be welcome to call in about whatever you want. Larry Elder is our guest, and you can check out his website, which is elderstatement.com. But finishing up talking to Larry here today, what is your breakdown on the ISIS situation and Assad and where all that's going?
Well, understand this is a president who, when he was running for Senate back in 2002, gave a speech in which he called the Iraq War a dumb war. This is when 90% of Americans thought we were going to get hit again. This is after we knew that Saddam Hussein had used chemical weapons on his own people and on the Iranians. This is when he was stealing from the oil for food program, shooting at the British and American planes patrolling the southern and northern no-fly zones. We're paying $25,000 to families of homicide bombers, had tried to assassinate President George Herbert Walker Bush, and Obama felt we had zero national security interests there. And even he assumed, as everybody did, that Saddam had stockpiled the WMD. So fast forward, this is the same president now who is now doing aerial bombing because a journalist got beheaded. I don't understand what the objective is. Are we at war? Are we going to contain them? Are we going to destroy them? What is his agenda? Do we just do kind of spot airstrikes here and there and maybe move ISIS around here and there? Can you really think we can do this without putting boots on the ground? Why the hell do you think we had boots on the ground in the first place? Obama cut and ran in December of 2011, was advised to keep a minimum of 10,000, ideally 20,000. He said no. He was told there was going to be a bloodbath. He was convinced there wasn't going to be because, after all, Obama felt that the war on terror was something that George W. Bush basically had conceived out of his own mind. If he hadn't been a cowboy, if he was able to pronounce the word nuclear, if he hadn't been such a swaggering person, people wouldn't be angry at us. So I'm going to come in with an unclenched fist. I'm going to reach out my hand. I'm going to start a new dialogue. I'm going to reset things with the Soviet Union. I'm going to get my first interview with Al Arabiya. Show the world there's a different guy in charge, and now they'll look at us differently. Oops. They didn't cooperate. I guess they didn't get the memo, Alex.
Well, people can say what they want about the Iraq War, and I overall was against it. But if you look at what's happening with ISIS being basically armed under the name Al-Qaeda in Iraq to attack Assad, the establishment's going to have a big problem on their hands when and if there's a terror attack in this country. And it's groups that our president and his cohorts, John McCain met with some of these people as well.
Right.
It's a very dangerous situation. What are they going to do when Obama's opened the southern border and undoubtedly terrorists have come across and probably going to have a terror attack? I mean, how are they going to get out of that, Larry?
I don't think they can get out of it. It's just a question of time, isn't it? We're hearing from Border Patrol people that OTMs, other than Mexicans, are coming across the border in record numbers. Some of them appear to be coming from the Middle East.
Thousands.
Yeah, the borders remain porous. We're in real trouble. But Alex, let me get back to the Iraq War. I'm tell you why I supported it. I know a lot of people didn't. I know you didn't. George Will didn't, and William F. Buckley did it first and did a 180. You can't kill them all. There's 1.5 billion of these people. About 10% or so are kinds of people who either support it or literally would strap bombs on themselves and blow us up. What can you do? What you can do is hopefully have a nation there that is a democratically run nation that shows people it's not the nasty Jews, it's not America that's oppressing you, it's your own freaking government. Look at Iraq. Iraq is a model. At the time, the economy was growing. It was serving as a model for the...
Larry, we can't end it here. To come back in 60 seconds... that little 5-minute segment. I want you to give us your sales job on this, and I'll briefly tell you my take on it.
Sounds good.
But, yeah, we'll come back and talk about that on the other side. That's something callers ought to call in later about and debate this whole thing. Who's really to blame for all this? I mean, I would say it's the radical ideology over there and Western governments funding radicals just to destabilize the area. But we'll get Larry Elder's take in 60 seconds. Stay with us. We'll be back. I began to get into iodine a few years ago because it was helping me and my family so much get healthy and detoxify. Most people know that iodine deficiency has been a crisis around the world. Iodine is key to so many of the body's functions, especially the thyroid. I discovered a product being developed by Dr. Group. You now know it as Survival Shield, true nascent iodine that your body can really absorb. Then, about a year ago, he said, listen, if you think this is powerful, I'm going to come out with rare earth, deep earth crystals. And the results that I personally have had have been life-changing. Nobody else has got iodine based on these pure crystals, ladies and gentlemen. This is innovating, and the best part is it helps fund Infowars.com, the radio show, the TV show, the whole media operation promoting true libertarian ideas. For a limited time, experience the ancient power of Survival Shield X2. Take advantage of this unprecedented 30% off Super Detox Special at InfoWarsLife.com.
Waging war on corruption. Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network.